Hello everybody, this is Jacob Lawler and welcome back to How to Write an Offer, Step 5, Handling Counters and Finalization. Now, this is the final video in this 5-part series. This is step 5 of a 5-part series. So make sure, did you already watch parts 1 through 4? Because if you didn't, a lot of what I'm going to say is not going to make sense. So just to do a quick recap, part 1 or video 1 was all about how to write a strong offer, what really a seller cares about, how to actually speak in terms of what a seller is looking for in an offer, and how to get that information from the listing agent. Part 2, we went into paragraph 14 of the California Residential Purchase Agreement, or what I personally believe is the most important paragraph in the entirety of that agreement, because if a buyer understands that paragraph, they really feel empowered and not afraid of losing their initial deposit, and how they can lose it and what are the ramifications of breaching the contract itself. Video 3 and part 3, we talked about how to use ZipForm Plus and what are the actual how-tos, and I took you a click by click on a live offer on how to actually write an offer. So make sure to take a look at that if you have any questions on how to use ZipForms, because we are going to use ZipForms again in this video. Part 4 is all about how to integrate DocuSign, the electronic signature program, into ZipForms, and I actually took you click by click on how to actually send what they call an envelope for signature. So I hope that you've already watched those 4. If not, I hope that was a good recap just to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page. But this is all about how to do counter offers, what a counter offer is, how to respond to counters, and really how to finalize the transaction. So let's just go ahead and get right into handling the counter offers. So what we're going to do here is simulate as if that same offer that we sent in video 4 off for signature, what that response may look like from the listing agent. So what I did is I have already gone off and created a counter offer and emailed it to myself as if I were the listing agent sending it to me, so to speak. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and download this counter offer, because this is more or less what a counter offer is going to look like. Now, whenever I download something, because I use Google Chrome, I already have it so that it downloads to my desktop. So we can take a look at what this counter may or may not look like. Now, I did this on purpose, but what you're supposed to do if you are a listing agent watching this video, when you send a counter offer back to the buyer, technically what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to have the seller sign and initial all pages of the RPA and send back the counter. However, I did this on purpose for the sakes of this video. Is the majority of the time, all that ever gets sent back to you is a seller counter offer, or sometimes a seller multiple counter offer. So this oftentimes is how it's going to look, just the items that they want to counter out with the seller signatures, and this is my horrible way of making it look like an R and an H with a bunch of squiggles, because those are the people who we used in this case of a scenario. But this is what a counter offer will generally look like. So they're going to counter back, just so you know, a counter offer is in a sense saying, hey, we agree to all of the terms that you have sent us except these items. So they don't have to say all other terms agreed. It's already put into the counteroffer itself. So again, purchase price to be 1.650, buyer to remove inspection contingency within 10 days after acceptance, escrow to be super cool escrow, and title to be super cool title, and number 4, close of escrow to be 30 days after acceptance. So now let's talk about how we can respond to this as a buyer's agent and for the buyer. Now, we're not going to get into negotiation tactics as far as, okay, well, should we meet in the middle? Should you go to one side, do another one? That's a whole different video. Let's talk about the actual process of responding to this counter. So let's say it would be too easy for me in this video just to say, hey, let's just accept it and move on, because most of the time that's not how it happens. So let's actually make it so that this is a fairly realistic video for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our Smith file right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in what's called a buyer counteroffer. So one of the easiest ways to search up in this top search bar is typing in the shorthand version of it. A buyer counteroffer, car form is shorthanded as BCO. So what you're going to do is if you get a counteroffer from the seller that says seller counteroffer 1, you're going to respond back with them with buyer counteroffer 1. Common misconception is you respond back with buyer counteroffer 2. That is not the case. You're going to respond back with buyer counteroffer 1. Okay, so let's say that they are completely fine with everything except for the price. Sure, we'll remove our inspection contingency with 10 days. Sure, escrow company can be those people. Title company can be those people. Number 4, close of escrow to be 30 days after acceptance. Boom, that's totally fine. We're good with that. So let's say that we're going to go after and just counter back. This is going to be this is a counteroffer to the seller counteroffer number 1, because that's what we just established before. Today's date as of recording this video is December 29th, 2015, and the seller counteroffer is dated. It was actually today's date because I did this all in the same time, and you would find that here up at the top right hand corner, what the date is up here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back in here and say it's today's date, and then all we're going to do here is you are only going to write in here the terms that they would like to counter. So all we have to state is purchase price to be, let's say they're sticking with their guns at 1.60. Okay, let's say they're sticking to their guns there, and that is all you need to type in. You don't have to state down below here like number 2, all other terms agreed. You don't need to do any of that. All you need to do is you need to type in what terms that they want to counter back to the other party. So all we're going to say is you can also put in additional addenda incorporated, like what if they want to make a long list that all of these lines won't even hold it. We can also shorten this expiration of the offer, like you can say or by 5 p.m. You can say by 5 p.m. on today's date, and say that Jacob Lawler is okay to accept it on our behalf. Okay, so if we do that, now let's say save. So now, if we want to send this off to be DocuSign, we can do it just the same exact way that we did the offer. What I would personally recommend that you do, however, is you also get the seller counteroffer signed as well. Because if you notice here, it says the acceptance, we accept the above seller's counteroffer, or if checked, you can check this box, attached counteroffer. Now, if you have a Mac, an easy way to make adjustments or modifications on a PDF if you're in preview is to click on this little toolbox here, and you can add in just if you want to, you can just add an X. Oh, whoops, sorry about that, everybody. Let me go back to it. Oh, preview quit. That's always fun, right? Let's start over with that. So let's go back and open the test counter. And again, if you go back down to here, you can open up the toolbox. You can click on the T, and you can say an X, and you can drag this X, if you would like, over to this box right here. And you can even make this a larger X. That way nobody mistakes it as not being checked. You can do it that way. Now, if you have a Mac, it's as simple as that, and then just clicking save. If you don't have a Mac, let's assume that you don't, or you don't know how to use it, or that's just one step too far. Let's keep it the way that it is right now. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click the back button, and you can actually add outside documents to your ZipForms account purely by just coming up into here and clicking add document. You can browse for a file, and it defaults for me on my computer looking at my desktop, so I called it the test counter. So I'm going to add in the test counter, and there we are. So we're just going to look at this to make sure that it loaded correctly. Boom, there we go. Excellent. So what I'm going to do now is click e-sign. I'm going to add in a new e-sign signature. So I'm going to click the test counter that we added in from the sellers. I'm also going to add the buyer counter offer that we're just now sending out. So I'm going to now click next. And it's going to be the same thing that we did before. So we're going to add in Mr. Buyer, Buyer 1, Mrs. Buyer, Buyer 2. I'm also going to add myself in here, and you'll see why in just a second. So I'm going to click Done. Now, a little bit different than before, I'm actually going to click Options here. So Options is going to now open up this document into DocuSign. So what I want to do here is I want to add in the signatures, not only in buyer counter offer that it's already going to add, but on this test offer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first send it to myself. I'm going to add this as number 1. Then I'm going to say Mr. Buyer is number 2. And then after Mr. Buyer gets it, or you know what, we can have them all get it at the same time. So what I'm going to now do is say next. So for Jacob Lawler, aka myself, I'm going to have a checkbox, and I'm going to drag and drop that right here on subject to attached counteroffer. Only because I want to make sure that this box gets checked. Only because if they don't check this box, technically, this is saying that they accept this counteroffer, and that would cost my clients $50,000. I don't want that. So make sure that this box is checked prior to them sending that back to the listing agent, or you sending it back to the listing agent. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be Mr. Buyer. I'm going to now, this is how you just use DocuSign, is you just go to where you want, which I just want a signature. Where is the signature box? Interesting. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So we're going to drag the buyer signature there. I'm going to also drag the date signed there. Don't worry so much about the time at this moment. I wouldn't worry too much about that. We're going to go to Mrs. Buyer. Same thing. Mrs. Buyer is going to sign down here. Just make sure these don't overlap too much. Sometimes if they're too large, I bring them off to the side here. That way there's no discrepancy. And then date signed here. Drag and drop. Then I'm also going to go back here and make sure that this is correct. So it automatically did it because it comes from Zip Forms. So I'm just going to move the date over to here. I'm going to move the date over to here. And there we go. So again, they countered back at 1.650. We're going to counter back at 1.6. Now, all I'm going to do, I'm going to click send. So now I automatically get prompted because it's as myself. So I'm going to say, sure, I'll sign this now, aka I just need to make that checkbox. So I'm going to scroll down to the checkbox, and I'm just going to check this box here because I added that in there. Now, as soon as I click finish, automatically Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you're done, want to sign another document? No thanks, not at this time. So now automatically, since I finished, now Mr. and Mrs. Buyer are both going to get an email. So now because I am all three people, I'm actually going to get 3 emails. So if you use the same email for multiple people, just make sure that they understand that if you're on a Google-based email provider, it's going to show just the one email and have the number next to it. So if I am going to go as Mr. Buyer, I want to scroll down and make sure that it says Mr. Buyer down here. If I want to be Mrs. Buyer, I just have to make sure that I show Mrs. Buyer down here. So I'm going to first start off as Mr. Buyer, and it's going to be the same thing as before. I'm going to click start. Once this loads, I'm just going to say boom, I sign, boom, I sign, finish. No thanks. And then you tell Mrs. Buyer to go and do the same thing. Just go down to her email, click review documents. I'm going to click start, Mrs. Buyer, and because I haven't done Mrs. Buyer before, boom, we are good. Mrs. Buyer, There we are. We're finished. So now that we're completed, I will now get an email document stating that there is a completed document here that I can now send off to the listing agent saying, hey, listen, we've responded to your counteroffer. Boom, it says completed right here. Your document has been completed, review document, and down here we'll have both documents that I signed. Now I can actually forward this document directly to the listing agent, or if you don't want to show all of this items, you can download this to your computer, then upload it to here and send it from there. But I hope that was helpful. Now, making sure that you understand that the agreement is not finalized. The agreement is not finalized until you have all pages with all signatures and all initials on them. So just because you sent this off, and even if the listing agent calls you and says, hey, listen, it sounds like we're all good, it's not a valid agreement until every single party has signed and everything is buttoned down. So don't start giving yourselves high fives just yet. Make sure that we need to, when we send this over, I would include in this email to say, Mr. Listing Agent, please also include all pages of the RPA when you send the acceptance back. Because the agreement is not finalized until you have all pages of the RPA back, all pages of all the counters with all the initials. So again, I hope this was helpful on how to respond to a counteroffer as far as the process. If you aren't going to use DocuSign, of course you can print these out and sign these by hand, and you can do all that. That's fine. For the sake of this video, I wanted to show a click-by-click on how to use DocuSign because that's very commonly done. But again, I hope this was helpful. And also, I hope this video series was helpful, that it really gave you some insight on how to get an offer accepted, how to write an offer, the how-tos, and also to kind of know just some practical steps on how to utilize the programs that we need to do in order to make this work. So if you did get value from the series, please subscribe to this channel and stay up to date with some other videos that I'm putting out, because I hope that these videos do bring value to you. And please feel free in the comments down below, send over some suggestions on videos that you would like to see, because I want to make sure that you're getting videos that are topical to you, relevant to you. And overall, I hope these were helpful. I hope this video series helped you make more money, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. This business, we did not get into it for charity, although we do help a ton of people. We meet a lot of great people, but at the end of the day, we are feeding our family with this. This is how we make our mortgage payments, our rent payments, and I hope I made it a little bit easier for you. So feel free to subscribe to this channel, comment with questions, and I'll see you on the next video.